Ethan being sued for violating multiple labor laws? Yeah, I did see that. Ethan Klein, that's a good title. Ethan Klein sued for multiple labor infractions. And here's the thing, like, we have Ethan exactly where we want him, right? Because, like, he successfully pissed off all of Hassan's followers. He successfully, now he's just attacking the left. And this is the thing about Ethan that he doesn't understand. And if he watched my stream, here, I'm going to give you free advice, Ethan. Ethan, you're not smart enough on politics to really understand what a radical is and what mainstream is. And you don't know what any of that means. You know it, and I know you don't know that. And here's a little hint. Destiny doesn't know it either. Okay? Destiny is not educated or experienced in politics, man. Thank you, Techno Dog, for the 10 subs, by the way. He doesn't know what he's talking about, all right? And neither do you. So what you're doing is you're wading into politics and you are saying shit that doesn't make sense to anybody who watches politics. And so you are putting yourself out there on no man's land. Nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody, the world that Destiny constructed, which you're now getting sucked into, which is very funny, is not actually political. All criticism equals Destiny. Bro, you've been here for years as a Destiny simp. Like, I've known about you as a Destiny simp for years. What are you talking about? And you just say Bad Buddy. Okay, yeah, I cringed with Bad Buddy 6 years ago, and then I went to dinner with her. And then what? What happened then? What happened then? You got me. I cringed 6 years ago, right before I went to dinner. What is it? What do you think you're saying? What do you think you're doing? You're a fan of a literal sex pest. And I mean, I get it. Your name is Lemon Stealer, a reference to a famous porno. I mean, honestly, just... We all know. We all know. Okay, we get it. Sir, don't, I'm not gonna have to time you out for talking about self-harm. I think they're trying to convince you of something, but they don't actually know what it is. But they don't have anything. That's the thing that's crazy. It's like, Mike, did you know you used to be conservative? Yeah. When I was raised in a military family. And then I changed them. What's your point? Next. Steve, by his own admission, never read a book. And that's the thing with Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein is honestly like, and this is where he's going to get tripped up. And this is why he's going to fail. And the thing is, he's too stupid. See, the thing is, he's been poisoned against me and Denims and Hassan because we're not Zionists. And we oppose what the state of Israel is doing. The thing with Ethan is he identifies with Israel. And he identifies with people that are very, very much to the right in Israel, much more than he does anyone in Palestine. Okay. And that's just, you know, it's his life experiences. It's his socialization. It is what it is. Like, we're never going to convince him that Palestinians are equal human beings to Israelis or to Americans. You know, he just considers Arab people. He said it before. And can someone show me the clip? If somebody could dig up this clip. He basically said that Muslims and Arab Muslims in particular were predisposed to violence. That is a racial comment. And he said it with such a calmness and surety that it is the sign of cold-blooded racial bias. There's nothing more you could say. I mean, Destiny said that he supports the genocide in Palestine. He's Islamophobic. And this is who Ethan Klein is following. And Destiny... being Islamophobic, being a bigot, supporting genocide is really bad. But he's also an active criminal. And yet none of that matters for Ethan. Is this the one? Whatever happened to Nicole? I don't know. before it's very funny. I will say this really fun. This thing about Nicole, which is before me, she was kind of like conservative, and now after me, she's like a radical left. Anyway, let's keep going. It's funny to think about people that encountered me. Like, this is my most arrogant belief. People encounter me, and I don't know why, but it is a life-altering experience for people. I don't know why. So many people have just changed the course of their entire life because they encountered me, or they've gone completely unhinged and insane. I don't know why. It's not everybody, of course, but it is enough people where it's kind of funny, where I'm just like, oh no. Should we recognize that this is another instance of white people wanting so badly to be prejudiced against? I mean, we have to remember that, like, I'm somebody who's actually deeply, deeply, deeply studied World War II and what led up to World War II and Weimar Germany and what the Nazis actually believed. I think you should know what the Nazis actually believed so you don't ever get confused and get tricked, right? Like, one of the things that America did, and this is a very important historical point. Did you guys know that caring a lot about the Holocaust was originally considered to be left-wing coded? Caring a lot about the Holocaust was coded as socialist because West Germany had a lot of former Nazis in it. And so if you cared a lot about the Holocaust, you were considered to be a left-winger, undermining West Germany in the fight against the Soviet Union. That's part of why the Soviet Union made the epic blunder of supporting Israel's formation, because the America and the Western allies initially were basically trying to just move on from the Holocaust. The United States really didn't start supporting Israel until the 60s and the 70s. Okay, we were kind of like mildly in favor of Israel, but it was actually a lot of like the left wing. Like, a lot of the weapons for the Nakba came from, like, I think it was the Czechs. Like, the Czechs gave weapons, which is in, you know, Eastern and Central Europe, right? And this is kind of like a complication, which is like a lot of like the Soviet Union and a lot of the left wondered, because there was early on in Israel's history, it was the left, so-called the labor left, socialist, self-described socialists, kibbutzes, who, even liberal Zionists, even binational state Zionists, you know, those type of people were the leading people in Israel early in its formation. And so, believe it or not, now when you look at it, you see Israel is far right, Israel is genocidal, Israel is, like, you know, fascist, Israel is closely aligned with the United States, and it's used as a cat's paw all around the world. That wasn't initially how it went. So I think a lot of people, like somebody like Ethan Klein, doesn't understand that because he's never read a book. And I don't mean that as an attack. I just mean that as a bare statement of fact. Right? Not understanding the complexities of what got us to this point. Right? Israel has been very successful in kind of navigating its way through the political tides. You know, that's why it exists, because they've managed to ride the waves of various different political movements. You think that went away? I'm sorry it came back. The neoliberal party leader said a few days ago that all the people demonstrating against the CDU because they work together with the AFD are left radicals. Oh, of course. You can copy and paste every single one of Ethan's talking points and compare them to documentaries that were made during apartheid South Africa and just listen to the arguments they were making in favor of apartheid. They sound the damn near the exact same. Well, here's the thing, future gamer. Israelis understand that South Africa was their model, right? Like, they know that. Like, people like Ethan Klein understand that. Like, when you compare him to apartheid South Africa, they're not mad because you're wrong. They're mad because it sounds bad. And the reason why they're mad about it is because America had its own civil rights movement. And in the common understanding, black people are equal citizens to white people in America, right? There's this kind of like kindergarten brain, true American. Like, most black people have far deeper roots to America than the white people, you know? So most white people, even people that are a little bit bigoted, look at black people as true Americans. That was kind of the legacy of the civil rights era, which is, you know, there's still bias and hate against black people, but no one really denies their Americanness, right? Like, in fact, a lot of white people take pride in black culture as truly what makes America, as truly American. And so there is a kind of real strong distaste for apartheid South Africa, right? Now, apartheid South Africa's last ally was Israel. And people like Ethan Klein understand that.
I do, on the other hand, acknowledge that, like, I think per capita, a lot of the weird fucking terrorism and crimes and shit, I mean, there's definitely some strong thread of violence through the Muslim community. Yeah. Or Arab Muslims, to be more specific.
The extreme.
So, the extreme, yeah. Like, there's a really...
The extremists.
Like,
sure.
You hear people say, like, you don't see Jews and Christians going and fucking doing suicide bombs. Maybe you do see some Christians these days.
First of all, yes, you did. And this is why, like, Ethan Klein is almost... This is, like, bordering on Holocaust denial. And, like, it's because Ethan Klein... I'm sure he didn't intend it. He's just dumb. And he doesn't know anything, right? A lot of Jewish people committed suicide attacks against the Nazis. That's just a fact. In the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, a lot of Jews did suicide attacks on the Nazis rather than surrender and be sent to death camps. Or be captured. They fought to the bitter end. And they committed suicide. Why? Because they were being targeted. And they understood that. And they were fighting with all of their strength. And the Palestinians are stateless. And this is one of the things that I think is really, like, sobering about people like Ethan Klein, which is he just doesn't care about history. He just doesn't care. Because if you care about history, if you study history, you can see the clear parallels between the Jewish people and the Palestinian people. The experience of being a stateless minority targeted by a powerful majority and denied equal status under the law. The idea that Zionism was socialist or left-wing is massively wrong. Okay, Herzl Ben-Gurion socialism was only... Herzl wasn't a socialist. Ben-Gurion socialism was only skin deep. I completely agree with you. I think you're mishearing me. And you might be having a little bit of problems understanding what I'm saying. Is that the Soviet Union allied with these surface level labor Zionists and leftists, right? They called themselves socialists. They called themselves leftists, but they bared racial animus against indigenous people. We're not talking about them being actual socialists, because socialists, it's in the Internationale. So one of the founding positions of socialism and leftism is that races are equal. Mike, we're all really bored of Ethan and D. Please move on. We gave you a good week and a half to far viewers and subs, but Jesus Christ, we're moving on. Don't worry. The man is still attacking me, James. Like, what do you want me to say, dude? And so, and as far as, like, you don't see Jews doing terrorist bombings. I mean, he doesn't even know the history of Israel. Israel was founded on terrorism. This is one of the most famous terrorist attacks. And what's interesting is recently they made the British Prime Minister, when he visited Israel, stay at the King David Hotel. Oh, you're the victim? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean, chatter? Your first time here? Your first time here? What do you mean? You have the floor. What do you want to say to represent Ethan Klein fans? Okay, you've been here. You've been a Twitch user since 2015, so you're in your 30s. You have the floor. Nothing? Okay. Pretty standard Ethan Klein fan. Anyway, getting back to teaching history. It's hard to type while you're shaking, yeah. The British administrative headquarters for Mandatory Palestine, housed in the southern wing of the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, was bombed in a terrorist attack on 22nd July 1946 by militant right-wing Zionist underground organization Irgun during the Jewish insurgency. 91 people of various nationalities were killed, including Arabs, Britons, and Jews, and 46 were injured. This isn't the only terrorist attack. But I want you to understand that Israel's entire founding, in fact, the Irgun terrorist organization, which I think could be most reasonably analogized to Hamas, became the political party of Benjamin Netanyahu. It became Likud in 1988. So here it is. I'm going to show it to you right here. Irgun was a terrorist organization of Jewish Zionists who killed innocent civilians. And then it became the Harut Party, conservative nationalist political party in Israel. Would be most closely, I mean, if you were just analogizing it, it would be Hamas. And then that became, and it had a formal merger into Likud in 1988, which is Benjamin Netanyahu's party, the Party of Israel. Chairperson, Benjamin Netanyahu. There you go. Benjamin, I mean, so like, what is he talking about? Like, what is he talking about? Now, does this mean, I mean, based on this logic, Ethan Klein thinks that Israel shouldn't be able to exist because they committed terrorism. Now, you know, this kind of stuff is history. Now, if you're a wealthy, privileged white guy from Beverly Hills, you're not going to learn this stuff. Sabadinsky was very clear that he admired Mussolini in both his ideology and practice. Revisionist Zionism has always been the driving military force in Israel. People like Ben-Gurion would frequently call them fascists. Oh, absolutely. They called themselves fascists. Like, a lot of the people that helped found Israel called themselves fascists and said that they saw a lot to admire in National Socialism, except for the anti-Semitism. There was an alliance. I mean, like, this is just, this is factual history. Why is this not okay to say? Because it makes Israel look bad. It shines a different light on what Israel is. Ethan wants you to think of Israel as this home of refugees. And in many ways, there were a lot of refugees in Israel. And a lot of those refugees were invited there, or they voluntarily left. A lot of them were compelled to go. But I don't think it would be okay if we brought in 3 million Haitians and went to Ethan Klein's house and kicked him out of his house and kicked everybody in that neighborhood out of his house just because they were refugees from horrible violence. I don't think that's an acceptable way to solve problems. Is go, well, we committed horrible atrocities against these people, so we're going to commit another atrocity against another group of people. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't justify what Israel has done. And that's what Ethan Klein wants you to do. You know, Ethan Klein doesn't just want you to not care about the Palestinians. He wants you to help oppress them. He wants to spend your tax dollars. He wants to spend your military might. He wants to spend America's reputation and diplomacy abroad defending Israel. It's not just that we can't criticize Israel. It's that we have to actively pay for their crimes. That's what Ethan Klein thinks. And it's ultimately like that's the problem. You know, sometimes people use the word like good person. Have you ever heard that phrase? People say, so-and-so is a good person. So I posted about Ethan Klein this weekend because I found out about a lawsuit that he's facing from his housekeeper. And when I saw the document, it was really, 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 really... It was really disgusting. And I was like, I know for a fact that it's not easy to sue people. You have to have a lot of money ready. So do you guys think a housekeeper has a lot of money to sue Ethan Klein? So that means that the housekeeper is either borrowing money to sue Ethan Klein, or a bunch of attorneys looked at the case and found it to be so egregious that they said, we'll pay for your lawsuit against Ethan Klein because we know we're going to win. And we'll get you money and we'll pay for our legal fees. That is what is happening to Ethan Klein, is that lawyers looked at this case and said, oh my God, this is so egregious. We'll pay for your shit. This is something that lawyers do frequently. It's why conservatives hate the legal system, by the way. One of the few ways that regular people in America can get justice is through trial lawyers. And what happens with trial lawyers is they'll pay for everything up front if your case is good enough. If you've been wronged and you're broke, trial lawyers will pay for everything because they'll take a percentage at the end. If they win. If they lose all their money. If you get nothing, they're out all the fees and all the effort. But corporations fucking hate the trial lawyers. Rich people like Ethan Klein hate trial lawyers. They'll frequently say that they're trying to extort me for money. So Ethan Klein is being, you know, his housekeeper says that she went to them and said, hey, I need to take a month off because I have a hernia surgery coming up. And so to recover, I need to basically not be engaged in strenuous physical activity. And I need accommodations in the form of light work. But I'm not going to be able to do everything I used to do as your housekeeper and maid and, I guess, personal cook. She was doing a lot of stuff for Ethan Klein. Now, can I just say this? And I'm going to say it. And I'm going to say it very simply. This is weird. No matter how much money I have made, I have never thought about getting a servant. Like this, you have to have a certain type of mentality to want a live-in servant. I know that there's a lot of people here who hear me say that and are like, no, I would love to have servants. But for me, it's just odd, you know? Sometimes it's necessary, right? Like if you are in a, like, say you're a fucking like national, let's say you're the president, right? The president probably shouldn't be spending his time doing his laundry, right? It probably makes sense to have somebody help the president with his laundry, right? But if you're a live-at-home YouTuber What are you even doing all day? What are you doing all day? Throw a load of laundry in there. Hang out with your kids. What is he doing all day that he needs a maid? He needs a nanny. What is he fucking doing all day? I'm legitimately curious. He hasn't made a video on his main channel since Vape Nation. Like, what the fuck is he doing all day? I think if you're a single mother of multiple kids working 10 hours a day, oh yeah, definitely. If you're a single parent who leaves your home to work, it's a little bit different to get help around the house. But if you're a YouTuber who works from home, what the fuck are you doing all day? I'm legitimately asking. This is also different from hiring a cleaning lady once or twice a month to help you do a deep clean. This is a live-in housekeeper. This is fucking crazy. Who lives like this? Ethan was in his basement all day outside of the podcast making his content flop too. Dude is lazy as fuck. I mean, he didn't research a single goddamn thing. Okay, so what is Ethan Klein being sued for? He's being sued for violation of the California Family Rights Act, the disability discrimination violation in FEHA, a retaliation in violation of FEHA, failure to provide reasonable accommodation, failure to engage in interactive process, failure to take reasonable steps to prevent discrimination, retaliation in violation of California paid sick leave law, wrongful termination in violation of public policy, failure to provide meals and rest period, failure to pay overtime, failure to pay state and local minimum wage, and failure to pay all wages due, and failure to furnish wage statements. Oh my God. Now, I don't know this, chat. I want you to know I'm just doing what's known as news coverage of an emerging story. So I don't have any firsthand knowledge of what went down. You know, if Ethan Klein was to come out here and say what happened, I would like to encourage him to make a video where he talks about exactly why he's innocent. Otherwise, all we could do is go by the public filings. And to me, the story is very, very sad and gross. Let me pull it up. I want to make sure that, okay. All right. Facts common to all causes of action. On information to belief, at all relevant times, defendant Teddy Fresh Inc. was a California corporation doing business in California. On information to belief, Teddy Fresh Inc. is and was at all times relevant and owned and operated by defendants Gila Klein and Ethan Klein, collectively the Kleins, each of whom at all times was an officer, director, and or managing agent of TFI and an other person acting on behalf of an employer within the meaning of Labor Code Section 558-1. On information to belief, there is a unity of interest between defendants and each of them, and each acts as the alter ego of the other, and failure to recognize the alter ego relationship would lead to an inequitable result. On information to belief, the Kleins and TFI are and were engaged in one and more of the following: commingled funds, an unauthorized diversion of corporate funds or assets to other than corporate uses, treated assets of the corporation as though they were individual assets, such as paying personal debts with corporate funds, or utilizing corporate funds to purchase assets for individual shareholders with no discernible benefit to other shareholders, failed to obtain proper authority to issue all stock granted to certain shareholders, allowed one or more individuals to state that she or he will be personally liable for debts of the corporation, failed to follow corporate technicalities such as maintaining proper records, holding regular board and shareholder meetings, and properly electing officers to craft and administer corporate policy, shared owners, directors, and officers with other related or closely held entities, shared office space or business locations with other. And the reason why I'm watching all this is, the reason why I'm reading all this is this establishes that Teddy Fresh isn't like, oh, Ethan and Hilla had nothing to do with this. Teddy Fresh Corporation fucked up with this person. They just didn't know. It was all the employees they have in their mega company, Teddy Fresh. Right? They didn't know. This is establishing that, no, actually, Teddy Fresh is just Ethan and Hilla Klein. They know exactly, you know, it's not a private business. Or it's not like separate from the corporation. There wasn't like a rogue HR director doing things. Like, this is why this is very important to establish. Hilla and Ethan Klein were directly connected to this. Is this just throwing the book and seeing what sticks? No, this is objectively the reality. Have you read the Teddy Fresh Glassdoor reviews? Because they also complain that they're made to work overtime without pay. Oh my God. Is that true? How does Glassdoor confirm that you're like, Glassdoor does like a confirmation process to ensure that you're like an employee of the company, right? Like they make sure you're part of the company before they let you post, right? I'm not sure of Glassdoor's processes. No or yeah? Okay, people are saying both. Lena, his secretary/assistant, plays the role of his servant on the show. She gets him drinks on demand, cleans up messes, orders food, prepares snacks, gets him anything he asks for like he's a feudal lord. That's why he's a capitalist, chat. Legitimately, people like Ethan Klein, like the reason why he goes like, I'm just a social democrat, is because he wants servants, right? He doesn't like the socialist idea that workers are equal. Like everybody should be equal, right? He doesn't like that. He likes the idea of having servants wiping his ass. That's what it's really all about. It's not, you know, he likes having power over people. He likes having private power over people, so they have to do what he says because he's holding their paycheck over their head. He doesn't want to live in a world where people have rights. People are, you know, they work a job, right? They you know, they have duties, they have responsibilities. They might even have to take direction, but he wants to be able to lord it over interpersonally. And so, like, this is what people say, good person, bad person, that usually just means I don't like that person or I like that person, right? Like, that is like what people mean when they say that. And I'm sometimes called a bad person because I'm a little bit mean or I'm a little bit abrupt, right? Like I sometimes say to people that are assholes, you're a fucking piece of shit and I hope you suffer the consequences of your actions. Like I'll say stuff like that and people be like, whoa, Mike's mean, he's a bad person, he just said that bad person deserves to have a bad life. And it's like, you know what, guilty. But if you ever work with me interpersonally, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to treat you respectfully. I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to treat you like I treat myself. I'm going to treat you like an equal fucking person. He was appalled when Dan said share the profits with his employees. That's when he decided he's not for socialism. Yeah. I'm a blunt person. I'm an honest person. I'm not fake. You know, I just tell you what I think all the time because you know what? Who has time for this subterfuge? I'm not the fucking Queen of Sheba. You know what I mean? Like, why am I running around trying to do subterfuge and trick people and show fake personas? It's like, who has time for that? But so I don't find the good person, bad person distinction to mean much. In fact, whenever I hear somebody say so-and-so is a good person, that's a red flag for me on that person. Like, legitimately, I'm like, they're a good person, huh? It's something you say when you don't have anything specific to say. But it's also a side the person is manipulating you. They want you to be like positively oriented toward that person, right? And it's like, instead of saying they're a good person, why don't you give me a story of the good thing they did that makes them good? You know what I mean? And so anyway, Ethan Klein is very dedicated to saying that me and Denims are bad people and he's a good person. But this is a person who is the most intimate worker you could have. A live-in housekeeper, maid, tendy retriever for him. And he mistreated her so badly, she's suing him. Okay, so complaint for damages. Plaintiff served as full-time housekeeper to the clients beginning on approximately December 16th, 2020. She was well regarded during her time with them and fulfilled her job duties without issue, including cleaning the house, doing laundry. Oh no. Okay, I found it. Okay, never mind. I have it. Okay. Doing laundry, making meals, regularly performing errands, and grocery shopping. During her employment, plaintiff suffered from a hernia, of which the clients were aware. On June 18th, 2024, plaintiff learned she would need surgery for her hernia. The very next day, June 19th, 2024, at 10 a.m., she notified Mrs. Klein that she would be needing time off for hernia surgery on July 19th, 2024. Additionally, she told Mrs. Klein that her doctor expected her to need a month to recover, but if she felt better sooner, she would return earlier. On June 20th, 2024, plaintiff placed a call to Karen in TFI's Human Resources Department as she was having a problem with her time card login. She notified Karen by voicemail on that date that she would be going out for surgery on July 19th, 2024, and that her doctor expected she would need a month to recuperate. Shortly thereafter, on June 20th, only 2 days after plaintiff notified her employer that she needed time off for hernia surgery, Carrie Bish, EDP of Finance, called plaintiff to notify her that her employment was being terminated and that she need not return to the house. Days later, as Ms. Bish attempted to have plaintiff sign a release, which plaintiff declined to sign, plaintiff pressed for a reason for her termination. Ms. Bish responded that her employer was, quote, going in a different direction, and referenced a problem she had with the client's nanny. The reason was pretextual. Defendants terminated plaintiff because she requested time off for her hernia surgery. Plaintiff has exhausted her administrative remedies by filing a charge with and receiving a right to sue letter from the California Civil Rights Department. Now, what Ethan Klein is doing is he's going out there and saying, oh, she called the nanny fat. That's why I fired her. And that is really odd to me, because Ethan Klein has spent the last few days screaming on his show in front of all of his Teddy Fresh employees that I'm fat and making the commentating on my body, again, from a video that's over a year old where I'm like 25 pounds heavier, but who gives a fuck? I'm a 40-year-old straight cis man from Pennsylvania in a long-term relationship. Like, do I give a fuck if you're trying to judge me by my body? What the fuck is this? Am I a Victoria's Secret model? Like, what are you trying to do here? But anyway, he's calling me fat, right? He's trying to mock me for being fat. So, funnily enough, that creates a climate where mocking people for being fat is clearly part of Ethan Klein's, it's acceptable behavior in Teddy Fresh, right? So he's going to say, I fired my maid because she made fun of someone for being fat while making fun of people for being fat. He has literally created a counter argument to his entire case. He might lose his lawsuit because he'll be brought to the stand to testify, and they'll say, you say that she was calling people fat was a reason for termination? It'll be like, yes, it's unacceptable to call people fat and do fat shaming. And they'll be like, didn't you just call so-and-so this someone on fat on the Teddy Fresh show? Isn't this part of Teddy Fresh's culture to call other people fat? So you're saying that it was you didn't fire her for hernia surgery, that you fired her immediately after being informed of. But you fired her for calling people fat, and you're calling people fat all the time? When was it unacceptable? Was it unacceptable for just firing her, but acceptable for everyone else? Was that communicated to her? Like, basically the entire point is he has just completely destroyed the only argument he had. The argument he had was, oh, I didn't fire her for needing hernia surgery. I fired her for another reason, and this is immaterial. You know, it doesn't matter, right? And I can tell you right now, he's fucked. He's fucked. He's going to look terrible. And a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say, like, a lot of Ethan Klein's fans are going to look at this and go, no, this is not true. He's allowed to call you fat and it doesn't matter. You can't call the nanny fat. Blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand anything regarding how these cases actually operate. They're not going to be able to establish that calling someone fat was beyond the pale unacceptable while they're doing it. Like they've just destroyed their entire the people going to the trial, the jurors, the judge, they're not going to be Teddy Fresh fans, okay? They're not going to be Vape Nash fans. This is why you're not an attorney. No, that's totally why I went to law school and you didn't.